Hey guys, it's Vanessa and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another What's for Dinner where I show you guys what I feed my blended family of 6 from Sunday to Thursday. For Sunday, I did a Mississippi pot roast in the Crockpot. Okay, so for the roast, you need a large cut of beef. I have an inside round oven roast, which I've been told by my mother I way overpaid for. I have a jar of pepperoncinis, a packet of ranch salad dressing, a packet of onion soup mix, and you need 1 stick of butter, to which I actually ended up using half of a regular stick and half of a garlic butter stick. So start off by placing your roast directly into your crock pot. I'm just going to half these sticks of butter and then cut them into little pads and just place them liberally throughout the roast and throughout the crock pot. So my personal opinion on the garlic butter, I will omit it next time. I do like the idea of the butter, but the garlic with the onion and the ranch seasoning honestly was a little overwhelming and there were way too many flavor profiles going on. So here I'm shaking on the soup mix and the dressing. Every kick drum hit is a symphony. I'm pretty sure the pepperoncinis are what make this a Mississippi roast, so I just go ahead and place about 8 or 10 of them on it and around them, and I poured probably about a 1/4 cup of the juice into the bottom of the crock pot. I went ahead and cooked this on low for 10 hours. Wishing they were obvious instead of giving into the fry. Next, I'm just going to go ahead and prep my veggies. I like to do this earlier in the day so that I can set them aside and not have to worry. When it comes time to cook, I just turn them on. For the turnip, I slice it in half and then I cut it into half moon shapes, and I find it a lot easier to peel that way. I'm just going to cut them into small enough cubes so that they'll cook within about half an hour of boiling. I like my carrots to be a little more rustic, so I kind of give them a rough chop and I don't peel them. I just give them a good scrub. Honestly, it doesn't make a difference, and why peel them if you don't have to? I had a lot of regret at this point that I decided to make roasted potatoes as opposed to mashed with gravy, because for me, a home-cooked meal like this needs gravy and mashed potatoes. Nonetheless, they're ready to be roasted. One word dying for if you saw her shake. We can feel the flow underneath. So I've gone ahead and checked on my roast. It's just about ready. I've decided to go ahead and dry off my potatoes and get them ready for the air fryer. I coat them with a very small amount, maybe 1.5 tablespoons of olive oil, just to help some of the spices adhere. So I'm going to go ahead and add some black pepper, some paprika, dried chopped onions, and some garlic salt. I just go ahead and toss these all around with a fork, and they are ready for the air fryer on high for about 20 minutes. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a couple of forks to shred this up and then let it kind of absorb all of the juices that are sitting in the bottom, because that's where all the flavor is. It smelled amazing, but I'm telling you that garlic butter made it a little bit too pungent. I thought that we had something special. I thought I handled this so well. It smelled like an Italian deli in here. That would have been amazing on some crusty hoagie rolls, but we didn't have any. So here I am just throwing the potatoes into my Ninja Foodi. On the Foodi, I use the air fryer or air crisp, and I do it on high, and these took about 20 minutes. So now I am making my maple brown sugar carrots. You guys need to try this. You will never make them any other way. Jamie says he never likes cooked carrots, but inhales these. It's literally nutmeg, cinnamon, maple syrup, honey, and brown sugar. Mix it all together. When the carrots are hot, it will melt and meld into pure bliss. If the only reason you buy an air fryer is to make roasted potatoes, run out and do it right now. Well, don't run out, stay home, order it on Amazon. This meal, you guys, was amazing. The kids devoured it for 2 days later because we had a lot of roast beef left. Highly recommend trying a Mississippi pot roast. This was supper for Sunday night. On Monday, we had Atlantic seafood chowder. You're going to need some sort of deep pot. In this case, I have a Dutch oven that I'm using, some sort of milk or cream. I have lactose free, and a can of evaporated milk works perfect. Also some chicken broth or some seasoning if you don't have the broth. For spices, you're just going to need salt, pepper, and dill. You're going to need, for oil or fats, you're going to need olive oil and butter and a little bit of lemon to cut all of that sweetness, especially from the seafood. You will need some sort of fat. So in this case, I'm using bacon. If you had pork lard or something like that, that would work as well. I have some frozen seafood that I didn't use the last time I made a chowder. That's what I'll do. If I have extra, I throw it in a baggie and freeze it. I have a can of cocktail shrimp. These are the perfect size when you're making chowder. And also a can of baby clams, to which I will use the juice in that as well. For vegetables, it's just kind of your base to get your stock going, which is onion, a carrot, and some celery. A tip when chopping bacon, or any meat for that matter, especially when you need to slice it, is to leave it frozen. This is still about half frozen as I took it out in the morning. I'm slicing it into strips so I can crisp it up in a frying pan. And a tip I learned from my spouse is to just throw the lid on and cook it low, and it'll come out perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and prep the veggies. I want to dice these up relatively small. It's kind of a backwards way that I'm showing you how to do it here, but it works for me. Here I'm just adding a few tablespoons of olive oil with a couple pads of butter to melt together in my Dutch oven while I continue prepping my veggies.
I get unstable.
None of these are requirements. You can keep or add whatever you like. This is just what we prefer. I'm going to go ahead and add it to that oil and butter and let it soften for about 3 to 5 minutes. At this point is when I want to season it with some pepper, some salt, and also some of the dill. I like to do this before I add any liquid or anything, just so that all the vegetables kind of absorb some of that flavor. Now, an ingredient that I neglected to add at the beginning was obviously potatoes. So I'm going to go ahead and prep those. Same story, little small bite sizes. Think of something that will fit on your spoon. It seems to be the best gauge for size. Now you can go right ahead and add these into the pot with the veggies. That'll kind of help get all the flavors incorporated again before you add any liquids. After this, you're going to add your delicious bacon, and it doesn't matter if a little bit of the fat gets into the pan. You're going to want to add enough liquid to cover the potatoes so that they cook. And remember, this is your soup, so as much or as little liquid as you like, that's your choice. I did add some chicken stock as well. I'm heating up my milk so that I'm not adding cold milk later on, and I'm going to go ahead and add the clams with all the juice and the remainder of my seafood. Now to thicken this chowder, you're going to need a slurry. I used flour and water. All it is equal parts flour to equal parts water. Mix it together with your fork and slowly add it to the soup. You're going to do this before you add your hot milk. Once the slurry was added, I let this sit for about 10 minutes at a low simmer just to get the potatoes cooked. After that, I'm going to go ahead and add in all of my milk. What I love about making chowder is it can be a last-minute decision because it's always ingredients I have in the freezer or in my pantry, and then I have a delicious, comfortable Atlantic classic seafood chowder. All right, I posted on my Instagram, is it even Tuesday if you don't have tacos? Not in this house. So here's a huge pack of ground beef, all of the accoutrements for our tacos. I love these new stand and stuffed taco shells, and I had a few wraps left. We didn't make any extra trips to the store for this. I was working off what we had. I went ahead and diced up an onion. I don't always do that for tacos, but I was really feeling it today. I have a couple tomatoes and some lettuce to prep, and first off, we're going to throw our meat in the pan. Sadly, a few of my shells did not make the journey, so luckily I did have a spare pack of shells in my pantry. Yay for stocked pantries. Luckily, I still had plenty, but here were my casualties, and yet again, my lovely assistants will pick up my mess. Can always rely on them to take care of my messes. I think this mix and chop is like a staple for what's for dinner content creators. Everybody has one. I've had mine for probably over 10 years. I bought it from Pampered Chef, but I'm pretty sure you can get them on Amazon as well. I'm going to go ahead and put a lid on this ground beef because I want it to form some liquid so I don't have to add any extra water when I'm adding in my taco seasoning. I'm just using these old El Paso taco seasoning envelopes because it's all I can get my hands on right now. I keep wanting to make a trip to Costco to get the taco seasoning, but until I need actual essentials, I will not be making a trip. I'm just going to go ahead and dice up my tomatoes and prep my lettuce, and I will say it again, a sharp knife goes a long way, especially when you're trying to dice up. These tomatoes were so soft. Like most of our meals, we lay everything out buffet style. I'm gonna go ahead and build mine, just meat, cheese, sour cream, lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and taco sauce. Watching this right now is making me so hungry again, but they are a staple. They work every time. We had salad the next day. Taco Tuesday is always a hit. Wednesday was homemade Chinese food. So first up, we made some Chinese broccoli, which was just a bag of frozen broccoli from Costco. For the sauce, you need soy sauce, sesame oil, and garlic. I just went ahead and used jarred garlic because you do need 1/3 of a cup of chopped garlic, which frankly, I did not have time to chop all of that up. I do have some chicken breasts here for the lemon chicken that I'm gonna make. I use a combination of cornstarch and flour to batter it. For spices is garlic powder and ginger. I also need some vinegar and a lot of lemon juice. I had to use one of my phony lemons because I did not have 6 lemons. Again, wasn't going to the store for lemons. I need some sugar and some soy sauce. That's everything you're gonna need. But of course, we're serving this with rice, so I'm gonna go ahead and prep my rice from my rice cooker with 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water.
Need no pills to get high. There's no doubt in my mind. Your love, it is all that I need.
I'm going to link the recipes down below that I found on Pinterest for this, but they're pretty straightforward. For the broccoli, you do need what they call a stir-fry sauce, which is just soy sauce, sesame oil, and cornstarch, and I just shook that up in a mason jar and set it to the side.
Mountain, I'd clear the sea. For you, I'd do anything, my remedy.
Now, this seems like it requires a lot of prep, but it is worth it. Trust me. I'm gonna go ahead and make the lemon sauce for the chicken from scratch. This does call for a cup of lemon juice. Sadly, I thought my 2 lemons would be enough. I don't know what I was thinking, but little tip for you guys, if you don't have a juicer, go ahead and use your tongs to squeeze your lemons. I'm telling you, this actually works.
Pills to get high. There's no doubt in my mind. Your love, it is.
Now, I'm gonna go ahead and add some soy sauce, the lemon juice, which I ended up having a cup. I was able to top it up with another fake lemon in the fridge, sugar, and the seasonings. Whisk it together and heat that up for about 3 to 5 minutes. And then you're gonna go ahead and add a little cornstarch slurry, which again is just equal parts cornstarch and water.
Is your love it?
I'm gonna go ahead and dice up my chicken, but like I had said in my seafood chowder video, let it stay frozen a little bit so it's easier to slice. I did not follow my own advice. All right, so here I'm just whisking in that slurry I was talking about. That sauce has been cooking for about 5 minutes. So I'm gonna go ahead and whisk that in, and then you kind of let that heat up and cook out for a few minutes. You take it off the heat, add a little bit of lemon zest, and your sauce is ready to add to your chicken whenever your chicken is done. Now, the recipe that I found did call for using eggs and flour and grease and using a frying pan or a deep fryer. I am using my air fryer, my Ninja Foodie, so I skipped the eggs and I'm skipping the grease. I'm just going to coat this in cornstarch and flour, shake off as much excess as I can before I put it into the pot, and the air fryer will do an amazing job. All right, so like I said earlier, I let this sauce cook for probably another 5 to 10 minutes just to kind of cook out all of that cornstarch, and then I'm gonna zest a little bit of that lemon right into it and set it to the side. That lemon zest really makes the difference. All right, so I just sprayed my foodie with a little bit of canola oil to make sure that nothing sticks, and it's also gonna help crisp up the chicken because you're gonna wanna spray that very liberally to make sure that all of the flour is kind of absorbed. I know it seems weird, but it's no different than submerging it in fat as opposed to just giving it a light spray. Once I can set the chicken aside in the foodie, I can go ahead and concentrate on my broccoli, which is sesame oil and a 1/3 cup of garlic, browning for about 3 to 5 minutes in a frying pan. You do want the garlic to get a little brown here before you add your broccoli. Once I've added my broccoli and I've stirred it around a little bit, I'll go ahead and add that stir fry sauce that we made earlier. This literally takes minutes to cook. The recipe said 10 to 15. I don't know about you, but it would be a soggy mess if I cooked my broccoli for 15 minutes. Now, when you're air frying, I like to go in and toss things up. So I probably did this 2 or 3 times and sprayed it down every time just to make sure that the flour was absorbed and everything was crispy. I also took a second to sprinkle on some fresh sesame seeds onto this broccoli and take a look. It's so good, you guys. I will say it was a little bit salty, so I would use reduced sodium soy sauce in the future. My rice is ready to go. My chicken looks like it's from a restaurant. I was super psyched and pumped about how it turned out. And the kids loved it. They didn't like the lemon sauce, so I let them dip it into plum sauce. But Jamie and I coated our chicken in the lemon sauce just like out of a Chinese restaurant, you guys. Take a look at this plate. Super good, super delicious. Homemade Chinese food for the win. It's always a success in our house. All right, and Wednesday was probably one of the biggest hits at our house in a long time, homemade lasagna hamburger helper. Now, this was a Pinterest recipe, so I will link it down below, and it did call for a pasta that I couldn't get my hands on, so I did have bow tie in the cupboard, so we just went with that. I have a pound of ground beef, a jar of sweet basil marinara, some chicken broth, you need about 3 cups, some garlic, Italian seasoning, salt, and pepper, and 1 onion, which in actual fact I didn't end up using because I knew that Belle was not a fan, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch that out for minced onion. Step 1 is to brown your ground beef. You're gonna use a deep skillet because this is all gonna be in one pot, so I guess you could call this a one-pot meal as well. Here, I'm just measuring out my chicken stock. It did call for reduced sodium and I was short by about 1/4 cup, so I added some water. I figured that would make up the difference. I just wanted to measure out this jar of sauce to make sure it was 2 cups and it was perfect. I'm not 100% sure how much garlic it called for, but here I'm adding a heaping tablespoon, and the same for the minced onion. One last ticket before it's gone. Once your meat is completely browned, go ahead and add in your pasta. If you were using onions, actual onions, you'd wait till they're translucent and go ahead and follow these steps. So here I'm adding all of my broth and all of my pasta and all of my marinara. Little words hit me like a game of darts.
And you're
Once you've combined everything, go ahead and sprinkle on your Italian seasoning. I added roughly 2 tablespoons.
and you're beating on my door.
I seem to be neglecting to tell you guys about a lot of ingredients today, but obviously how can you have lasagna without mozzarella? So I'm gonna go ahead and shred up about 1 cup. I think I ended up adding closer to 1.5 cups of mozzarella, but you can never have too much cheese. Now, I waited until about 3/4 of the liquid was absorbed by the pasta before I added my cheese, and then I go ahead and stir it in just to finish it at the end. I let that cook off for about 3 or 4 minutes, and I'm just telling you, this was perfect.
One last fight before I lose.
I'm not kidding you when my Facebook and Instagram were flooded with positive comments and where's the recipe about this. I will never crack open another box of Hamburger Helper again. I can't wait to try other flavors. All right, you guys, there you have it. Another What's for Dinner. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and subscribe and leave a comment down below. I will see you guys all in my next video.
On my door.